Guys, Infidel 1258 here. Hope you're doing well. I'm just gonna check my sounds, my audio and stuff before I go any further, but I think we're good. I already see some comments in there. Thank you guys, Red X, for dropping some comments, and Merlin's. Appreciate you guys. Let's see. Let me check my numbers. Let me check my audio. Okay, it sounds like on my end, think we're coming through clear. Let me know in the comments if you are getting it. Actually, I can see we're good. Great. Okay, so hope you guys are doing well. I am enjoying summer, and I hope you guys are too. I got a video coming out tonight, which will be like a rank grind video. And in there, I'll give some like updates on just like where I've been for last month. It's been, I won't go too deep in it because I don't want to, double dip on that same conversation. But suffice it to say, tonight at midnight, I'll get a video out. And if you care to know where I've been, you can find out in that video. And yeah, so check it out tonight. As for today, I've got some conversation points or talking points that I'd love to get into with you. But as always, I'm going to check the chat and just see what you guys are asking about and curious about. And I'll be happy to talk all things Splinterlands or blockchain. I mean, there's lots to talk about these days, isn't there? Crypto's looking pretty juicy. I love to see Bitcoin still above 118. That is crazy. Even while the alts have been really starting to come alive, hey? ETH, look at where ETH was recently. Okay, so in the last 30 days, it's up 50%. How's that number? Or the last 90 days, 107%. Like, it's not just Bitcoin. It's the major alts. How about XRP? You guys know I love me some XRP. Last 90 days, 46%. Actually 30 days is really where the fire's been, right? 46%. And I think that number would be modified if it was taken even 4 days ago, because it was, we were at 3, where were we? We were higher a few days ago. So I think it was 365 at one point instead of 322. So that number would be even better. But either way, that's just two examples. And I know that there's more. And SPS, I know we've been languishing a little, haven't we? We've been slowly bleeding out, but we did have a good little solid bounce up there to 7.8, almost 0.8 of a penny. I want to say earlier this week, things are good. And if you don't know this about me, I'm a silver guy. And so I'm happy to see this number be where this is at. $39 US or 38.97 per troy ounce of silver. This is a great price. Gold still doing great as well. And I'm also a gold bug. So things are good, and there's room for growth, isn't there? Like when we look at ETH at those numbers, or XRP, or where, whatever major token you're into, I don't think anybody is saying that we're at a top. And with Bitcoin holding stable and strong there, is that another leg up there? I don't know. But it seems to me that there's room for confidence. And so love to talk market stuff if you're interested. But yeah, whatever we want to talk about. And like I said, I do have one conversation piece that I kind of prepared that we'll get into in a minute. First, I just want to say hello. Red X, thanks for coming through. Appreciate you, pal. You going to participate in conflicts? I am participating in conflicts. I know wagons are trivial for the next 9 months. I wonder what you mean by that. Wagons are trivial for the next 9 months. And you want to say, think about it. If top are averaging 11 wagons being used, busted aura will definitely be shaken up. Will shake up something of a short squeeze for the complex. Yes, I fully agree. This is an interesting conversation and talking point. I still don't know if I exactly follow you when you use that word trivial with respect to wagons. In fact, I would say it's the exact opposite, because I think you're alluding to it here too. We're talking about every successful wagon being a broken wagon, and it needs to be repaired. And that's a cost of $5-ish now. And like you point to, there's only so much aura. And we know that, there's a multitude of reasons, or a growing number of reasons why we want that aura. And so for all that, we should believe that it's going to be, it's going to start to dry up, right? I think so. I think there's reason to believe that. And so if it starts to dry up, what will that do for, I think the conversation isn't just so much about, it's not so much about the conflicts in general. It's more about the conversation around land activation, probably. And we're almost always like late to the party with respect to these things. One of the things you guys have heard me, if you've followed the channel for a while, you've heard me talk a lot about over my years covering Splinterlands, is that we're late to respond to trends that are developing in front of us. If you're paying attention, you might catch them and you can move ahead in advance of those trends. But so often the majority of people are not paying attention until it's too late. And so one of those examples might be, maybe it's land activation. You know, we haven't just seen Aura produce black foil potions. That was the first piece. We also seen black foil or Aura be a factor in the enablement or the beginning of Aura Labs, right? As well as, you know, now those tickets, those lottery tickets, or I forget, auction points as well. So there's auction points, and then there's I forget, lottery ticket isn't the right word, but you know what I mean with respect to turning promo cards into black foil editions. That stuff those are various syncs, and you know, there's going to be more, 100% there's going to be more. And then the broken and repaired, or the process of repairing broken wagons, is another significant sync over the next 9 months. It's going to be a really huge sync. Yeah, it's going to be a really huge sync. One thing I haven't done is even look at this post. Does this show the stats on that card? No. Do we see the stats on this card somewhere? Xyrix, or whatever he's called, the Ember Glace. If his stats are somewhere, I want to see that. So let me know, guys. But back to the first point, the conflicts are interesting because they're interesting for so many reasons. Exciting new cards affecting the meta. But they're also interesting because of what you're pointing to with respect to the battle wagons breaking and what that means because of the tightness on the marketplace with respect to Aura. But to come back to my first point and to finish the conversation, I really think the interesting piece isn't so much exactly how conflicts are going to unfold, but it's more the question of what is going to happen to land in the middle of conflicts unfolding. Because I think we did see increased activity with respect to land, even when we saw the black foil potion conversation begin. And I know for me, months ago now, I started to make that shift toward land because I saw this as being a new focal point for attention. And actually guilds too. I'm hearing enough. This is a separate conversation, and it's a bit more speculative. The land conversation, the conflict conversation, the Aura conversation is it's coming, or it has come to a head. I think the guild is going to be the next piece that they've really talked about that I'm pretty interested in seeing. That there's going to be dramatic transformations in the guild, probably new buildings and new ways that we engage with the game that are going to maybe produce, you know, interesting new ways to spend your gladiator points, your merits, or, you know, if you're a guild leader. It's been so long since I've looked at this. You know what I mean? There's in-game currency. And so thinking that all through, I'm excited about that. That's a separate conversation, though. I won't go too deep down that rabbit hole. Thanks for the comment on the conflicts, though. I think you're right. There's going to be an interesting tension in the economy of Aura and within the economy of Splinterlands during and because of the 9-month dropping of a variety of really powerful, overpowered even monsters within Splinterlands, right? That's the thing. It's not just conflicts are interesting. It's that these airdrops are very exciting. And if they're very exciting, people are going to put their conflict wagons to work. And if they do that, then they have to somehow manage that from an economy standpoint, meaning Aura. Merlin's, good to see you, pal. Bronze forever. Is this somehow like Bronze Dragon? No, it wouldn't be, because Bronze Dragon's got his own account, and that's how he has his YouTube. Good to see you, Bronze. Good to see you, Merlin's. Appreciate you, X. Paul, thanks for popping through. Merlin's. You can see the stats in your collection. Okay. Oh, okay. So I can go to my collection. I can open up the card as if it's like in my collection. Let's try that. Bear with me for a second here, guys. What's going on? Open widget. I'm getting some sort of lag issue with the stream, so apologies if there's a problem on your end, if you guys are seeing anything like that. I'm not doing anything unusual, so I'm gonna just keep going as if that's maybe a momentary problem, and we will see how that unfolds. Okay, so let's go back to the item cards. This will be the first time I've seen this card. So Conclave, and it's a legendary. And I go all cards. And then I go reg foil. There he is. Wow. This is my first time seeing this card. Over the last month I've been playing Splinterlands, and I've been tracking, but I haven't seen this card yet. Wow. My initial reaction is excitement, hey? This looks like a beast. This is only level 1. That's impressive. Now, let me see the full thing, the full kit and caboodle. Stats. Can I see all the stats? Do I have to go to, can I go over to Peak Monsters and see the same thing? Because they have a different way of displaying that data. Conclave. Regular foil, legendary. And it's called Ember Glace or something. There it is. Ember Glace. Okay. So now, let me read this a little bit here. So at 10 mana, Ember Glace has 5 melee attack as well as 2 magic damage output with a significant hit point of 10 and 4 armor and 4 speed. Wow. First of all, this looks like a strong card if that were the top, if that were the maxed out version of it. I mean, sure, it's a little low on abilities for the current sort of, iteration of power creep and all that. Like this would be underpowered in some ways, but you would find a place for this in certain scenarios with the good amount of hit points and that damage output. Even if this, and that speed even is very reasonable. The Incendiary is almost not a problem. One of my first reactions here. Almost not a problem because of the base hit point capacity. That's going to take 5 turns to burn you down. Considering the damage available at bronze, I would say that's going to be a card that'll really impress, bronze warriors. You guys are going to be, really enjoying that if you can get your hands on a copy of this. What else? Charge is, what an amazing level 2 ability for this thing, hey? Because you get that melee damage, which is the most meaningful contributor of damage output from this thing, from a rear position. From a Silver League, that just makes this thing a Silver League beast. Now, I know 10 mana is quite hard, and at those lower league levels, you're not necessarily going to always have, 99 mana. In fact, it's quite rare to have access to that. But 10 is not 18 or whatever, right? Like Rage is 16, doesn't it? Like there's some pretty expensive cards nowadays. For 10, I actually think this is relatively affordable these days from what I'm seeing, and even like within the context of what's available, let's put it that way. But then Charge activates that from the back line, so you get the double damage output from the 5th, 6th spot and a reasonable tank. And then with the Incendiary too, it's great because you can bury it. If you have to put it at the front, you're going to Incendiary your second line, and you're going to like help your opponent tear down your front line, which is often your main meat shield. Incendiary, in my opinion, is more safe or appropriate or controlled from the 6th spot, and that way, sure, you're going to burn out your back lines quicker, but those aren't your tanks. They might actually be with taunts and whatnot, but generally speaking, they're not your main force. They're just like, and again, with 10 hit points, I don't think Incendiary is going to be a huge problem for him. And then what do we get? Execute. Wow. Charge Execute is a great combo. So you unlock the double strike from second position with the silver, second, third, fourth, like any of the backline positions with the charge if you're in Silver League, and the Execute giving you the double strike potentiality with both of those damage outputs sounds amazing to me. And then finally Bloodlust. Wow. This card looks awesome. And that's just from the abilities with just the base damage that I quoted here, but there's more, isn't there? No, the damage stays high. It stays the same the whole way. Okay. Seems very. I'm almost glad that's the case. If this damage went up and up, like to a 6 and a 4 or 6 and a 5, I would think this would be just a bananas card, like an absolutely broken card. 5 and 2 itself with these combos seems really strong. And then we are seeing not more hit points, which again seems like a wise 10 hit points is plenty. Incendiary is supposed to be a limiter to this card's ability. It always is. Incendiary is a punitive ability that's supposed to restrict the utilization of the most powerful cards in the game. And Incendiary would fail to work or become less impactful if you got like 20 hit points. So if we started at 10, went 12, 14, 16, suddenly who cares if it's got Incendiary in some sense, right? And so, but the growth of armor is helpful and still serves that sort of function of leveling you up as you go. Can you ever place Armor Strike on this thing? No, right? Because EMP is white and blue, and you can't use EMP with a dragon summoner or with a dragon monster, or you can't use it. Yeah. And so no, you wouldn't be able to put Armor Strike on that. That's too bad. What about speed? Speed stays 4 the whole way. I really like this card. Hey, you guys have probably all seen this 20 times and thought about this already, but for me, it's brand new. I think this is going to be very powerful. What an exciting start for the airdrops. And so, to come back to Red's point about the conflicts and how impactful that's going to be with respect to an aura conversation and what that's going to do maybe to my conversation with how we might activate more and more land plots, I think this is an example of the card quality and power impact that we're going to expect on all of those airdrops. And some of those are going to be summoners, and you're telling me those aren't going to be deeply desired? Yeah, they are. They're going to be super sought after. And that means probably more desire for aura, which means necessarily more either this. It means two things. One, you have two options here, guys. Think this through. I talked about thinking things through before they happen so that you can ready yourself, prepare yourself, position yourself to benefit from coming changes. We've articulated a point for why it's important to have access to conflicts, which means we've articulated a point for why we need aura, because mage wagons aren't free. Even if you have them, you can't keep them because they're going to break, and then you're going to need more of them. And so that should mean activation of more land. And that maybe that means you're not deep enough into a piece of the game that perhaps you've been sleeping on. I'm growing what I'm doing in land, and this is one example to me of how I've chosen rightly. It looks like I'm not seeing any more lag or challenges with the live, so let me know in the chat if you see anything, but I'll do my best. I'm not doing anything peculiar over here. Just got my music playing and my camera going. Let's keep going through the chat here. Yes, you're right. Trivial isn't the word. Top players set the floor for wagons. Very interesting before new Archons. Absolutely. The new Archon conversation, because if we think Ember Glace is an exciting card, when we see those summoners, man, that's going to totally go, it's going to totally throw things. What's the market saying on these things? Last time I saw the what are they called? Mage wagon repair kits or whatever was like $550. So the wagon kit is $590. And I did see it around $5. And so we're creeping up. And Midnight Potion's still down around 2 cents. I would argue the tension between all of these things, auction marks, fortune tickets, Midnight Potion, and wagons, as well as whatever else is to come, because there will be new things, is going to really, really push the challenge the economy of aura. And that should activate, it should do one of two things. I didn't finish my point there. It's going to do, if I'm right about this, it's going to do one of two things. The first option is people will just pay more money for the existing aura. And rich people will have and poor people won't. But then you have to think that the second alternative would come out of that first one. The second alternative is that more land would become activated to chase after aura production in order to supply the need for the demand. And I think the first one has to happen unless we want to argue that those airdrops are unmeaningful, not desirable. And I just think if you look at Emberglass, you can't draw that conclusion. That card's too good. And so for me, I say like this is, And if this is a predictable moment, or there's a certain amount of predictability to this moment that should lead to certain conclusions about aura, as well as probably land. I'm making actions towards what I think is the natural outcome of what I just described. That was a great conversation, guys. I'm glad we got through that. I dropped out about 10 seconds. Okay. Merlin says I dropped out for about 10 seconds, but all good now? Good. Okay. I have another major conversation that I want to hop into, and I'm not seeing any other initial comments. You can see that. Yeah. I'm not seeing any other immediate conversation pieces from you guys, so I'm going to hop into it. I watched Tails do a video here, guys. You saw this probably. Tails from the Cryptmancer dropped a hot takes video 3 days ago, and he talked about liquidity bots among other things. Ratings inflation is a piece of it. Buying energy, survival mode, and more. I would love. I'm going to comment on this a little bit, and so first things first, go watch his video. He's an insightful content creator himself, and I have a lot of respect for Tails and how he covers things, especially since, as he points out in this video, you know, he is not one that sort of holds back a controversial take, and some people probably don't like him for that, but I respect him for that. You know, he's going to say what he believes, and I might not necessarily agree with what he has to say, which is going to be the case in this conversation. But, you know, I still respect that somebody out there is covering those things. If it was all people saying, if a conversation, this is what I like to say about difficult conversations. If we don't have difficult conversations, we can't really learn from one another. It's like, that's not how I usually say it, but I'm struggling to remember the exact words of how I would often say this. But it's like, you know, if you feel differently than I do, and we don't talk about this thing, how are either one of us might be wrong? And shouldn't we want to strive after truth? And shouldn't we want to grow? And shouldn't we want, you know, I personally do. And so I'm not afraid of getting into a conversation with somebody who disagrees with me. In fact, I see it as an opportunity possibly for me to learn something that I wouldn't have otherwise seen. And if you look at the world, you know, in a totally different way than I do, it's quite likely we're going to come together, maybe in friction, but also probably in benefit to both of us, maybe. And so that's how I see these sorts of conversations. And I want to use that as sort of a starter to this conversation, because I'm not going to agree with Tails in a lot of what he has to say. And I don't want to take away from what he covers in this video. You should go see it. It's only an 18-minute video, and it's full of, I want to say, you know, meaningful critique. That's probably the best way for me to put that. But, you know, for the sake of conversation here with you, I want to say, in case you didn't see, and I will clip this video later too, by the way, because I think this conversation merits, you know, a broader attention. And I think so does Tails. He says so in this video. You know, he thinks more of us should be talking about this, and so let's talk about it. He makes the argument, and I'm not trying to minimize his argument, but I need to communicate it really quickly here. 10 or 30 seconds, I'm going to try and say, Tails makes the point that the Modern League is really in trouble. And actually, I saw a comment pop through on my community board. M. Papadero says, Modern is totally dead. 2 USD every 15 days to play the Wild. One of the biggest mistakes of my life, this game. So, M. Papaderos is salty about Splinterlands generally because he feels Modern is dead and Wild is too expensive. So the conversation is who's playing and what's the value proposition for playing. And I think the idea that Modern is dead is wrapped up in the conversation around liquidity bots, because Tails wants to make the point that, you know, as we well know, there maybe isn't enough people playing the game at this moment. And so we've come to a conclusion that liquidity bots will enable players who are playing to enjoy the game. That's been an approach of Splinterlands. And in doing that, he formulates a very strong argument that there is ratings inflation, meaning you climb higher than you otherwise would because you're playing against opponents who are bots. I cancel that and pull up my season activity. And he's probably right. You know, I've squeezed in higher than I regularly might have otherwise. And he cites, I think, two examples. There's one I really remember, Kezrin. Kezrin is the player that he really references, and he's like 3 days or 5 days into the season, he was at 7,500 RP or something. So he's like double my RP, and that's crazy. And he wants to he talks about how many energy Kezrin has purchased, and he talks about how, you know, the SPS returns for that account, and he makes the point that, you know, he asked the question, is it good for Splinterlands that we are selling energy to these people so that they can play as many games as they do, so that they can extract as much SPS as they are able? And he makes the point that, you know, he uses the word exploitative, that he asking the question more than making the accusation. Like, is this exploitative? Is this an exploit within the game? Was this an error by the development team? Is this a mistake that needs to be corrected? And I think his conclusion largely is that on some level, whether it was a mistake or not, it needs to be tweaked. I think that's the best way I can summarize his full conversation or argument. He's critical of the payouts within Modern League in particular, Survival League also. And he says, you know, these rewards at the highest levels are too meaningful, and it needs to be deeply considered, looked at, maybe even revised. He says other things. He makes the point that maybe we shouldn't even sell energy. But here's the thing that I want to say, because, you know, it seems to me that there really is a criticism that is worth levying at Splinterlands to say that, you know, there isn't enough participation in the game at the highest levels, which leads to lack of liquidity, which leads to difficulty in finding matches. And when you do find matches, fair matches. And so if that's the case, liquidity providers or accounts that are created with fake cards, because they're just fake ghost cards, that then play me to create liquidity to enable me to play the game at whatever league level I'm playing at. The highest levels are problematic, and probably, you know, so are other levels, depending on the time of day you're playing. And so I see a lot of logic in why we would offer those liquidity pots. But then it's an interesting criticism, and it's a worthwhile critique to say, well, if they're pushovers, that's a problem, because it then is just SPS farming. But I have two main points I want to raise. And this is my conversation with you guys, and maybe with the community who will hopefully later watch this video. I think if the highest league levels are quote unquote exploiting the game by receiving massive SPS payouts, 75 SPS per win at the high, when you're at 7,800 RP or whatever, plus 6,000 glint or whatever per win. Again, all the exact numbers are in Tails' video. It's like a 50-cent reward in terms of SPS, plus it's enough glint to buy you another energy. And a 70% win rate, that's what these guys are playing at. You go, well, you're going to just buy all the energy that you can possibly. Of course you are. But my first question or critique to that conversation is like, why is it a problem if the highest accounts in this game are trying to play the game more to get more out of the game? We're not talking about somebody who's put $10,100 or let's say $100 or $1,000 or even $10,000 into the game. I want to show you Kezrin's account. So I come into my cards and I can look up Infidel 1258, which, by the way, I'm at $24,000. Like I'm not a lightweight in terms of card assets in this thing. But look at Kezrin. Look at this number. This should boggle your mind. Bro has almost $500,000 in NFTs in the Splinterlands ecosystem, and that's not including land. Like, land is not wrapped up in that number. This is his card assets. If I just look at summoners, just to like bring that sort of data down to earth where we can maybe glean some sort of reality in this, he has $38,500 worth of summoners. If I just go to modern, he has $17,300 worth of modern summoners. What's my point? This man has $500,000 in cards in Splinterlands. Why are we looking at him and mentioning the word exploit or exploitative? And I don't think Tails by no means was trying to throw shade. It was like a conversation that is worth having about the topic of where's a reasonable line in the sand for what is reasonable rewards at those highest levels. And I think he wants to make the point that that if they can pay for free energy through glint, if a win gives them enough glint to pay for another win, then they're going to keep going and they're going to keep going. And that's going to be a recipe for them to really extract maximum SPS. But I think isn't it good that we get players who want to hold $500,000 worth of card assets in a game like this? Is that good or is it bad? It's got to be good. We want people to buy these things, or there's never going to be somebody who's going to buy it from us. That's the thing. Don't we want people who see deep, meaningful value in ownership of card assets? Yes, of course we want that. And so then we want maximum reward potential for the greatest ownership of card collection, as well as the greatest talent behind that card collection. It absolutely, rewards should be based upon your investment within the game and your talent within the game. If it is not connected to or commensurate with those factors, then there's no logical utility to the assets, and that would undermine what Splinterlands is itself. The reason, the justification, the excitement about this thing. And so I would argue people like Kezrin, or even like you, who maybe you have $100 in the game or $1,000. That's awesome. That's a meaningful investment to somebody. And you should receive rewards that are commensurate to it. The reasonable question I hear Tails and maybe you asking, 75 SPS per win plus glint enough to buy new energy, isn't fair. It isn't maybe commensurate, you would argue. And I go, that's worth talking about. But man, I consider it in poor taste to suggest it's an exploit when it's that sort of party, that sort of player, that sort of person who's being sort of held up as an example. My next point on that would be, how many accounts are we talking about that are able to do that? Is it one? Is it just Kezrin? Is it 100? Is it 1,000? I mean, an exploit. Is it an exploit when a guy has to spend $500,000 to take advantage of the system? That seems crazy to me. I wouldn't call it an exploit. Now, he only spent 15 minutes on this topic, and I want to be fair. I've already spent more than that. So I want to say, I bet there are more. Is it 10? Is it 20? Is it 50? There is a line in the sand where I would say, yeah, we probably should revisit this. And that's why I say it's a fair conversation. But we also have to remember the idea that they can buy more energy is a beautiful thing. It's that when people want to play the game more and more and more should be our desire. We shouldn't want to cap people's engagement with this game. That makes no sense. Now, if the rewards are out to lunch, and 75 does seem like a lot, but I'll tell you, with my $24,000 deck, not all of which is in modern, when I win, I'm getting 20 SPS. Look at this win right here. So look, that's 20 SPS for $24,000 worth of cards. And again, not all of them are in modern. If I was to look at my account, I bet it's only $10,000 worth of modern cards. Is 20 SPS for 10 grand fair and commensurate? Where is that line in the sand, and who do we want to call an exploiter? Is it only those who are buying energy? Are we arguing that you shouldn't be allowed to buy energy? Why are we capping people's involvement and investment? It almost to me sounds like we're just frustrated that others are gaining more. And I'll point us back to 2021. Maybe this will be my last note on this conversation before I check in with the chat. In 2021, we were seeing rewards where like $20 a day, $30 a day was possible because of the DEC rewards. There was still a time where we were being paid DEC to play the game. And it was also while airdrop points were happening for SPS. And that was important because DEC had an airdrop point value. So people were collecting DEC and just holding it and not spending it. And the way DEC was printed, I won't give you the fullness of this, but it was algorithmic, and it was algorithmically inflated, which affected the more of it there was, the more expensive it got. And the idea was that it would entice people to spend it into non-existence, and that would reduce the number. And so it didn't need to be created more. Oh no, I'm actually misquoting that a little bit. It was like, anyways, I don't need to fully explain algorithmic inflation. But suffice it to say, you could make 20 or 30 bucks a day playing the game at like a Diamond League level. And you know what? I didn't hear a lot of at that time. I didn't hear a lot of, man, this sucks. I heard a lot of like, wow, this is life changing. This is crazy. And I'm asking myself the question today, as I reference my own account and what I'm able to earn with my cards. It's like, where is the line in the sand for what's a reasonable payout? And, you know, back when I was benefiting in 2021 in a meaningful, crazy way, I wasn't so concerned about what the highest league levels were doing. But by the way, they were crushing it. And so I kind of do wonder if our critique isn't, this system is non-functional or let's say non-optimized, but our critique might just be, it's not optimized for me. And that makes me frustrated because it's like, and Tails does even talk about this. Like he admits within the survival context that, he is one of the beneficiaries of how survival works, and he'll get, he'll be able to mint a lot of SPS out of playing that, and other people won't. And he says, it's good for me, but I don't know if it's good for the game. And I go, I feel like this is, and it's a worthwhile conversation. And we probably should from time to time, check and see where these, how the reward incentives are. But I also think we have to hold that tension lightly, or that we have to hold that loosely, because we definitely want this game to be rewarding, meaningful rewarding. And I would argue for a $500,000 investment, 50 cents on a win is not meaningful. But bro likes the game. He believes in the thing long term. And so I don't consider that an exploit. What do you think? Am I wrong? I'm definitely going to clip this later because I think this conversation merits more attention. Yeah, love to know what you guys think. And shout out to Tails. Go check out his full video. I'll make sure. Actually, I'll just copy. I'm going to put it on X. Okay. Hey, all. Let's see. Do I know Tails is? I think it's Crypto Tails or something. I forget his name. Anyways, Tales from the Crypt. Mancer covered some hot takes on Splinterlands, and I have my own thoughts. So be sure to watch his entire video and then stop by my channel. Appreciate you, Tales. Boom. There it is. Also, follow me on X, guys. Time and attention. Appreciate you. Okay, I'm going to see what you guys are thinking or saying. No comments there, guys, for real? You got nothing to say on that? You feel either I'm entirely right or maybe Tails is entirely right? Or it's a perfect balance and there's no need for further discussion? Oh, hang on a second. Jeff opens cards, tried another 1,000 pickles, 3,000 in total, and finally got my first only black foil. Wow, good for you. That is crazy that he could do that many mints. I was able to do 600 mints of the pickle. And no black foil, by the way. Jeff opens cards. Happy belated birthday, buddy. I heard your birthday happened a little while ago. Appreciate you. Okay, let's go back to lobby. Let's go check in on my land, because we were talking a little bit about the productivity out of land. Let's go see how things are going over there. Play land. Okay. Cool. So, I'm a full keep tract owner, by the way, for those who don't know. 100 tracks in Moors Deep, and that's region 74. And I also still have 29 plots in 23, which is Baxton, and I have 10 in Highmore, which are actually they're not mine, and they will be returned in a few months, I think. So I'm leasing that land. I am deeper in land than I've been in a long time, and I'm buying cards in order to more fully populate this too, by the way, because man, things are, like I say, I'm excited about where we're going. I'm also invested in liquidity pools within the wood liquidity pool, because there's some fees available there. And man, I think there's so much room for excitement in Splinterlands, in SPS, in land, in like I'm a little surprised to have stepped away for a few weeks and then come back to a little bit of salt. I also saw some other stuff too where I was like, wow, okay. I think SPS price does a lot to people's, let's say hearts. If we pulled that thing up to a penny and a half again, there'd be a lot of smiles. And there'd be a lot less frustration, I bet. So what are we doing here? 18 concurrent viewers. Thank you guys. Thanks for hanging out today. Appreciate you. Yeah, appreciate you guys hanging out today. 18 concurrent viewers. Thanks for hanging through. Yeah. Okay. Well, if you don't have any comments right now, I'm just going to go through and I'm going to play some games, and I will check in on you guys and see what you guys have to talk about as you raise comments. What's new with you guys? Are you excited about Splinterlands right now? Are you feeling cautious, concerned, salty? I've read a community comment. Papaderos feels he's one of the biggest mistakes he's made in his life. Brian Honeycutt talks about the pickle making sounds. I can't believe I haven't seen anyone mention that yet. Miss it, kill it, or if it kills something, the pickle makes a variety of sounds. It's the first of its kind. That's funny. I heard about that through the People's Guild, Brian. The People's Guild had an interview with, I want to say Joey, whoever was largely responsible for the creation of the pickle. And he explained that in the conversation with People's Guild. You got to follow them, Brian. Still great effort. Well done. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah. I tried to run a marathon, and I got a comment from Papa here. Like, was it a walk or was it a run? I ran 30 kilometers and I started to get injured, and then I had to walk, and I was trying to finish that 42 kilometers or 26.2 miles. Hurt my knee, and it just kept getting, so I walked and thought, like, I just need to walk a little bit and I'll be good to finish strong, but it didn't get any better. It got worse. And I walked 3K to bring me up to 33. And then I walked home, got my kids, and said, you know what I'll do is I'll walk with them to the local place and we'll grab an ice cream cone. Quality time with the kids, making more progress, only walking at that point, but sinking at the moment, like it'll get better. And then it got to 36 kilometers, which is what I finished at, 36.3. And it just was like swollen, and not just my left, but my right too. So they were both toast. So the rest of that day, I actually posted a video on my Facebook saying, like, yeah, I'm defeated. I'm at home. I tried my best, but couldn't do it. And so Papa asked run or walk. It was 30 Ks of running, and I was probably on pace for a 5 hour, which is not a good. It's not like a fast pace by any means. It's like a slow marathon, but it would have been my first marathon ever. And so 5 hours for a full marathon was my pace. I was right on pace for that, like just around the 7 minutes per 1 kilometer. Sort of range. Yeah. Appreciate you guys. JPH, shout out to JPH. Dark Raw, still hyping on unregulated soft rug pull. Appreciate you, Dark. I definitely disagree with you. It's funny when like salty individuals, they want to stick around long enough to like what? Make comments. You know what I think that is? I wonder if people who are salty about stuff like this, if the truth is like they just are quietly hoping that it's not going to work out for those who are sticking around. It's not like they have any sort of positive feedback or thought that will be constructive. They don't want to build something. They just want to hopefully tear down what you've got, which is, in my opinion, like one of the worst kinds of evil, because it's like, it's one thing, like, you know, for all my disagreement with what Tails had to say, he's deeply focused on being constructive. You know, he and I would disagree fervently about those topics that we mentioned a minute ago, and maybe other topics, but the man is invested in seeking constructive growth and improvement through critique, which is often, by the way, necessary. But some people just want to say, you know, want to see the things around them burn because they'd rather destruction than others benefit. Like, it pains them more to see you thrive, so they'd rather just sit and see it all burn, which I think is actually a really sad comment on where we're at, like maybe geopolitically even, frankly. There's a lot of that. Hey, here's a comment about Tails. So Dustin Webb jumps in, and I did a video Q&A, Ahonix flips, Conclave. Okay. Hey, Ahonix isn't really popping off anymore. Like, no one's posting over there. And whoever was really feeding the market, just, you know, at some point they're not gonna. And so Ahonix is kind of dried up. The marketplace is dried up. So Dustin said, I did a video talking about how I was seeing opportunities to buy those cards and then flip them. And by the way, I did that like a few times. I bought actually this Alric in this video. I bought this Alric, I want to say a gold foil Alric level 1 BCX for, I want to say, like, I don't know, $6 or $10. And I think I sold it for 25 or something. Those numbers could be off, but I've meaningfully grew my DEC through that. So the Ahonix peer-to-peer auction house apparently isn't getting traction. Not enough cards are being listed. Not enough people are using it, but it's an exciting tool if there's liquidity over there, and maybe that liquidity can grow. But let's see what Dustin says. I would agree with Hale. Seems like a way for a couple big players to drum up excitement in a low volume market to liquidate some valuable cards for a reasonable price. Stating they lost this bit or that is not necessarily relevant when in the market previous, many of those old cards were barely selling. This is a fair point, given that the overall trade volume is quite low on the peak monsters already, splintering, haha, so puny, off of some of the sales volume of the different markets and different sales sites. I don't believe increases in the health of ecosystem at all. Further, if you're having fun there, by all means, go for it. For me, though, 2 minutes of excitement every 12 hours so that I can be there at a specific time. Yeah, these are fair criticisms, because let's break it down. He's making two main points. He's saying that people who were using Ahonix to sell cards were like big whales who have had cards for forever, and they're selling their cards for what would be considered like below market value, and that's why there's profit and opportunity for the buyer like me or maybe you. But having said that, those are, you know, almost certainly accounts and players that have been here since day one who have played practically nothing for those cards, and so they haven't quote unquote lost value. They've just, you know, realized more or less value than they would possibly have done on peak monsters. I still consider that a loss for them. You have to, right? Like if you could sell a thing for 100 and you sold it for 60, you know, even if it cost you 20, you've made profit, but you know, you could have more profit. That should be a logical factor for a seller, regardless of whether, you know, it's still profit. And I think we all feel that way. Like practically, if you were selling your house, you wouldn't be like, I'm going to sell it for $1 million, but if somebody offers me 8, that's good enough because it's still profit. You'd be like, no, it's like, that's a lot of money. I want the full value. So I understand your point, and you're right. It was definitely being fed by certain accounts that were, you know, supplying that, like maybe probably aggroed, because he was one of the creators or he supported the creator or something like that. So you're right. He was okay with sort of eating a bit of a loss. But I would argue that it's not so much that they were like ready and eager to exit their position and they were trying to create exit liquidity, which is what you seem to be implying. I think it's more like when Costco sells you a hot dog for $1.50 and they give you a pop with it. That's called a loss leader. A loss leader is something that gets a customer inside the door in order to hopefully create this significant attention to the community or to the business that then drive other sales, which is conceivably possible. That like it's people go to Costco and they spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, and then they go buy a $1.50 hot dog, and it's like this little thing that gives you a dopamine hit, like a reasonable, I got a good deal on this thing. And I think Costco's a good deal in and of itself, like regardless of that. But that's what a loss leader is. It gets you in the door. And I would argue the conversation you're having is really, it's less about maybe what they were doing or in terms of trying to sell the cards they don't care about. I don't think that was it. I think they were just creating loss leaders. If they wanted to sell the cards, they would keep pumping Ahonex with those cards. If they wanted to sell them for those discounted rates, they would keep pumping everything into Ahonex. And and those accounts are not empty. We're talking like the biggest whales in the game. Aggroed, bro has cards forever, infinite cards. And so, it's wrong to think of it from a perspective of like exit. It's definitely more, it was a loss leader play. And it seems like maybe it didn't work out. At least it hasn't worked out. Ahonex could still grow, by the way, though. It's like possible that if we saw an insurgence of players, which, by the way, I believe is still possible, in fact, probable for Splinterlands, especially as SPS price goes up. And then again, that's less a conversation about Splinterlands, and it's more of a conversation about the generalized bull market for the altcoins. So if we saw player-based growth, then I think, maybe there is a place where a thing like a peer-to-peer market like Ahonex does thrive, because we start to move towards it too. An overflow of players utilizing the tool. Maybe. And then your second point was, you're glad I'm having fun with it, but you say like for 2 minutes of excitement every 12 hours, I don't want to have to be there. That makes sense. You got to tune in at a very particular time in order to participate in an auction. Yeah, I get it. A tool like Ahonex would thrive and be more fun if it had like so much liquidity that you were like any time of day you could pop in and see a cool sale. That would be cool. Or if it only went once every Saturday, like if it was a tool that operated for 24 hours on 1 day a week, in my area of the world, there actually are auctions that you go and buy cars from, or mountain bikes from, or whatever, and you plan to be there. It's like there's notice. It's like in 30 days we're doing this event, and you should come and see what sort of assets we have to sell. And people will stay there for the whole time to look at like lamps and furniture and artwork and like a wide variety of things that you're not even necessarily interested in, because you're just curious to see what deals are available. And so my point would be that maybe a thing like Ahonex could happen in a more effective way if it wasn't just 2 minutes every 12 hours, but it was in fact a 24-hour window once a month or once a week where there was like a laundry list of auction items. Again, it's not my business model. It's not my company. I was enjoying it, but I hear your criticism there, Dustin. And he even finishes that. He says, perhaps if the market was 20x, there would be enough volume. I think you're right. We need significant growth before a tool like that's really going to grab. Supreme has similar concerns about Ag. He's just saying he's got bigger fish to fry, so pay attention elsewhere. Maybe, man. Snowball says, man, you sniped me on a few auctions. Now keep this quiet. Anyways, yeah, I lost another one. I've done this so many times recently. I keep queuing up a battle. I want to hear like a ding when my match is queued. Frontier format, Paul says. We'll chat about that in a minute. Let's see. Super sneak, back to basics, aimless. Okay. Okay, so even with Super Sneak, even with Back to Basics, because of Super Sneak, I can utilize a massive armor pierce from the 5th or 4th spot and really put some work in. Commander Slade could really put in some work from the back line with the 6 speed, the 5 damage, and the 7. That's a strong maybe for me. I think double damagers, like this is interesting to me, but he's probably too slow. I'm a little nervous about that working. Now, mind you, there's no dodge, there's no, swiftness, and so probably I could get away with throwing the Uland and Overseer in there and utilizing the 10 armor and the 17 hit points. But Slade is like a maybe preferable in some ways. Oh yeah, I gotta bring Shock Trooper. Now, is this the play or is this not the play? I'm a little wary about what I'm doing here. In terms of, no, I think I like what I've got so far, but what else can I do up here? Oh yeah, nice huntswoman. This feels like a pretty strong team. And then we do an armor strike right here. Now, I don't love having Captain Feldblade as a second spot. Even though she's got the double strike, she's just like a little weak on the hit points. Probably my opponent is going to do some rear attack, which might be... I think this is probably the better play. No, let's go like this. Yeah. And then we're going to go armor pierce for sure. Okay. And he's got some magic, some archery, and some magic, which means he's going to attack sort of like everywhere with the shatter shot, but he's also going to do some melee, which is going to go to the rear. I think we win this one easily. Nice big deletion, double deletion. And Huntswoman is going to hold the ground, the front line, for long enough for Slade to do what Slade needs to do. Piercing in conjunction with Back to Basics is really powerful. Like to be able to drop a pierce while my opponent is relying on armor to avoid, right? Because piercing is a very effective ability, but then you're expecting it not to work because it's Back to Basics, but EMP says, nope, we're going to go ahead and we're going to just go rip right through that armor. Queued up another one here. Frontier. Let's go over to Discord. Go on Discord. Boom, boom. Discord. So there's a new post from Nate. He says, everyone, thank you for the passionate and thoughtful participation of players in the community. We had so much incredible feedback from on how we name our new format coming to ranked play. The creative and marketing team reviewed and analyzed the situation from all angles and taking feedback from the voter participation in mind. The Academy name represents what the format is at launch, and the Frontier name reflects a vision for where the format could lead in the future. The hope is that someday it might be possible to eventually have two distinct modes, one dedicated to new players day one, simplicity, and another for pushing what is possible and bridging the gap between Web 2 and Web 3. That's cool. That's really cool. Frontier makes a lot of sense for me in the context of what he's describing there. I don't fully understand, but like Frontier in a literal definition sense is like this unexplored place. And so if it really is this quote unquote bridging of the gap between Web 2 and Web 3, I think Frontier is an amazing title for that. And then Academy was my favorite of the suggestions for the new player place where they can play with those low end cards for free, entirely free. He goes on to say more, but let me check on my time. Got a minute 40. I'm going to finish that post. In the meantime, we will strive to balance these concepts with the format which is taking flight now, and that format is called Frontier. Okay, for all those who participated in the survey and the UX channel, thank you for participating. We look forward to continuing our collaboration with the community and to the Battle Mages, young and old, newer experience. Welcome to the Frontier. Cool. So Frontier is the free to play place where we get those, like, we get foundation cards and anybody can play, right? I think that's what it is, Paul. But I gotta get my battle in here. Reach, amp. Everybody's got reach. Everybody's got reach. Everybody's got reach. I'm running out of time. I still think I want to go this way. Even though I don't need the flank. Oh, what the? Oh, white's not available. Ay. Okay, I'm going this way. I'm going here. We're going to get some melee and cheap cards out to just create meat shield. 3. Let's try that. So I'm counting on life leech with the that's a problem, and he's gonna be doing quite a bit of damage with this guy here. This life leech is not gonna meaningfully keep him alive. But one of my questions is, do I go first and get one big hit, which gives me 3 extra hit points, which really would maybe move the needle? Because we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 6, 9. No, we're going to die either way. So I'm going to try that. Even though we're going to die, this at least gives me the affliction on the Udric Elder. Udric Elder gives me another chance to nerf the Halfling. And the Udric Elder will stay alive long enough to get that off. The life leech counteracting, but the amp preventing what I want. We go. Oh, let's go. And dodge is huge. Oh, everything's hitting, by the way. Like everything. Okay, that's unfortunate. I feel like I could have done better there, like in terms of the arithmetic around the evasiveness. But maybe I'm wrong. I didn't really crunch the numbers. Tails, there he is. Good to see you streaming. Thanks, man. Thanks for coming through. And I did, well, I don't know where you're at in the live, but I talked about your video on the hot takes for liquidity bots, ratings, inflation, buying energy. And, you know, I encourage you I'd love for you to listen to what I had to say and, you know, drop a comment or even throw back like a return video. I think we need to, you know, we absolutely need to dial in payouts in a way that makes sense, but we also need to be careful about nerfing incentives to those who are putting in $500,000 for cards, because Kezerin was one of the accounts you referenced, and or maybe the main account you referenced, and I looked up his set, dude. That guy is deep in this game. $500,000. And I even went like this because I was like, is this just rented cars? Is Buddy just a big renter? Because I don't know who Kezerin is. Owned. Using the filter owned. He owns $483,000 worth of assets. And so, yeah, man, just love to hear your thoughts. And I know you can engage here and now too, by the way, if you want. And if you do, I'll respond. But I'm looking forward to hearing you speak into that, because I think the conversation is bigger than, you know, is 75 SPS per win too much at the highest levels? Is glint being, when you can buy a free energy every time you win, is that a problem within the game? Is a more complicated question than like you know, it's a free energy 7 out of 10 times. That seems to be like maybe your presumption, but I would argue that there has to be the added factor of like, what does it take to get 7 wins out of 10? Like that's yes, you're right. There's some ratings inflation and the bots are a bit of a pushover, but how about we make the bots better? How about we make the liquidity bots excellent? If XBot is as good as it is, why are these SPL liquidity bots ineffective? What's going on there? Because I think that's a bigger conversation. Because maybe the issue isn't ratings inflation is possible because of liquidity bots, but ratings inflation is possible because LP liquidity bots are not optimized. And so my first reaction isn't the rewards are too high at the highest levels or that liquidity bots got to go. My first reaction is, can we dial in liquidity bots? And is there a meaningful conversation to be had at the highest level rewards? Let's have that. But first, like, let's not throw out the baby with the bathwater. I go, let's really think about what's allowing someone to get to 7,500 or 7,800 RP 3 days into the season. It's not just luck. It's not just liquidity bots. It's also $500,000 worth of cards. It's also a very talented scholar or player. It's also, a willingness to, I would argue, see value where others don't, because they're, it's possible to just come in, tune on, and play your games and then walk away. But they're like, wait a second, like, what's the math here? And like, oh, what's an energy cost? And we want players that are invested and involved. And so there's a real meaningful conversation there, Tails. And I appreciate you dropping that video. That's why I posted on X. I hope you see it. I hope you saw that. Said about Frontier format. Me too, pal. But more from a perspective, not of personal intrigue, but more from a perspective of like, player base growth. We've heard even in the last town hall about how it might attract other players, and it's not necessarily going to be exclusively for new players, because you or I could play it, but it should be an attraction to new players or a piece that holds their attention. I would argue. Thanks, man. Yeah, I re-listened to the stream to the stream tonight. Okay, cool. Please do. For me, the issue is really that the energy should be purchased with DC. Yeah. And not Glint. Liquidity bots at Champ 1 is probably a separate but related topic. Fair. And I think this argument, I almost have nothing to say about the idea. Like, nothing. I have no negative. I have no pushback toward the idea of energy being bought with DC. I kind of wonder why it's sold by Glint at all. And I don't say that out of critique to what you raise with Kezrin or the top league players. I just go, like, I thought Glint was for cards. Now, I know sometimes we get energy inside of chests. I think that should be it. I think that should be it. I don't know why. That might be, in my opinion, an objective oversight. Like, I just genuinely do not see an argument for why using Glint for energy is good. DC should buy energy. And I probably would have made a video about that personally sooner, but I almost never buy energy. And so I honestly didn't know that. Let me go buy energy right now. Yeah, Glint, DC, DCB credits. What's one energy cost in Champ? One energy cost, if you're buying like your first round of energy, 25 a day, you're at 3,600 Glint. And then if you're going DC, you're paying 500 DC, so $50. So are we saying 3,600 Glint is worth 50 cents? That's what I'm taking that to mean. And if I come in here and I go play, and I go season activity, and I last win. My last win. It's taking so long. Come on now. I want to see what sort of Glint we get paid here. Okay, here we go. So this is my last win. and I skipped the battle, and I got paid 1,600 glint as well as 20 SPS. So the 20 SPS, we could figure the price point on that from a US dollar standpoint because of the liquidity around SPS and the market price. But 3,200 glint, or sorry, 3,600 glint is 50 cents allegedly, based on the cost of an energy, which makes this almost 25 cents. I find that, first of all, I think that price point's out of whack. I think there's no way I consider glint that valuable. You know, energy is like, in my mind, energy is, this is important. We incentivize people to spend glint in that way when we overly prize glint in that way. If there are people who are making, you know, so here, bring up the calculator. People are winning 70% of their matches, and they get 25 matches a day, but then they're buying energy, at least 25 energy a day. I think it might have been 75 energy a day in that example that you were referencing, or more, or whatever. But like, if say they're being 50 matches a day and they're winning 75, they're winning 37 of them. Not only is each win providing enough glint to provide an energy, which is another win or 7/10 of a win. Yeah, I think the real issue is that glint is being overvalued. Glint is being overvalued, so maybe the energy should, again, I think you're right. It should just be DEC, but if it's going to be glint, that feels like the bigger, the needle to move, the adjustment to make. Maybe we double the price of glint, or sorry, energy from a glint perspective. But again, I don't even see why we do that, because the whole point was, I thought, rewards. We wanted to get these soulbound reward cards. We wanted to be, and so leave it to that. That'd be my argument. And I'm not one who sits on bags and bags of glint either. Like, I spend it when I get it, and I spend it on cards. I know some people are saving up for the next set, which is an interesting separate conversation. But yeah, it really should be DC. I'm driving, but we'll ping you later in Discord with follow-ups. Appreciate that, pal. Oski, good to see you, man. Luini Kisa, good to see you back, buddy. Appreciate you. Yeah, I also recorded a Champion League rank grind video for tonight, pal. So if you want to hear where I've been or what I've been up to, me and the family have been taking time, plus work. Lots of cool things happening. I ran a marathon, or almost 36K, and so check it out if you want to learn more. At high champ ratings, glint rewards are more than glint energy. Hang on. At high champ ratings, glint rewards are more than glint energy prices, not even taking into account leaderboard glint rewards. Yeah. This is a very strong argument for why it shouldn't be sold in glint. It should just be cards. And I do think that then raises the conversation of like whether we should remove energy from the chests, which are purchased with glint. But I would say no. That's luck of the draw, and that's, go ahead and buy chests. In my opinion. But yeah, DEC for energy. Alex Bernard, good to see you. Give me SPS, DEC, or BTC for wins, and I will play again. Wouldn't that be awesome? Honestly, I heard someone say this. Let's talk about Bernard's, I think, joke, but I think this is actually a great idea, by the way. Let's talk about this for a minute. I heard someone say this, and this was probably a year ago. The DAO has significant funds. Not endless, but there's significant money in there. What if the DAO bought one Bitcoin? Because it has, I want to say $2.5 million or something in there. What if it bought one Bitcoin and kept it in the DAO wallet, and it would be programmed to be for a certain amount of Satoshis to be dropped into various chests? Or could they be paid in wins, or could it be a leaderboard reward? I don't think I like leaderboard rewards. I'm just thinking this off the top of my head right now, but it is someone else's idea that we could buy the Bitcoin and then distribute it in chests. That was the original idea. That might have been from Gathering the Magic. But we would get exposure to Bitcoin, which I think long-term is a wise investment. For anybody who believes in crypto gaming, you should believe in Bitcoin. And two, we would provide an incentive to players within the game to keep playing the game, to chase after a reward that many would consider more meaningful than SPS, even if the Satoshis paid would be relatively what might be considered inconsequential. If you got one Satoshi in a chest, or 5 or 100, you'd still care. I actually don't know the math on this, but I guess there's 8 zeros in a Bitcoin. Let's quickly do the math here. So if we go $120,000 for a Bitcoin, and then we go, is it divided by? No, it's times by point. No, it's divided by point. Oh, 12000 divided by 0.000 4 5 6 7. No, that's not working. So I think if I'm doing this correctly, that's like not even 1 penny. That's 1/10 of a penny. If you were to get one Satoshi, one. Could we do a thing where, there's opportunities to get 1 to 100 Satoshis out of a random chest? What would that do for attention paid to Splinterlands? What would that do for investment in chests? What would it do for the glint economy? What would it do for people wanting to play the game, or would they buy more energy with DC? If we, by the way, we made that change where Tails says you can't buy energy with glint, but you can only buy it with DC. Would people spend money on DC to buy energy in order to chase after Satoshis? And we're at $120,000 US, but do we really think it's going to stay there, or do you think it's possible to get to $1 million? And what would that do for the DAO valuation, and as well as the attention paid to the game? Going for a drive? Thanks, babe. So interesting. I know you're kind of teasing, but seriously, like, there's nothing saying we couldn't do that. I think you'd want to keep it right. What the? Perfect timing. Perfect timing. I think you'd want to keep that like as small and petty as you could. But honestly, would you be excited to receive Satoshis? 10, 5, 1? I think some people really would. I would. I'd just stack them. That's how you get players. I bet you would. You can swap your SPS and DC for swap BTC. That's true. So in some sense, you could be getting BTC payouts by playing the game. That's a good point, Paul. That's how you get money out of the game. I'm saying I want to win BTC. I think Paul is making the point that if you want exposure to Bitcoin through your in-game rewards from Splinterlands, you can just trade your SPS for Bitcoin right now. And he's right, but Alex is also right, where receiving the token in Bitcoin would be like, it's just mentally different. It's like, I won this versus I'm going to exit a position of SPS to get Bitcoin. That's a different choice. And plus I don't know the implications of that tax-wise, but there might literally be a taxable event when we try to trade things, depending on where you live in the world. So receiving a Bitcoin, but then I bet there's like SEC concerns if we were handing out Bitcoin. I don't know. This is all interesting. And speaking of frontier, we're on the frontier of like blockchain-based gaming. And so it's like, where is this all going to lead? I don't know, but exciting stuff. Much better marketing by receiving it in game, though. Absolutely. If it was possible to, like, what would that number max out at? If there are 8 zeros in a Bitcoin, 100,000 million, 10 million. Does that, I think that means there's 10 million Satoshis in a single Bitcoin, or is it 1 million? How many times does 1,000 Satoshis break into a full Bitcoin? Because, you know, I'm trying to like imagine how meaningful the reward could be while still being like drawn out and last across a long time horizon. It doesn't have to be paid to every single player, every single chest. It could be really, really scarcely issued, right? I won a Rift Watcher pack the other day. In a chest, and you know, that's the first time it's happened. I think maybe I got a beta pack. You know, all the time they've introduced packs. So like, what if it was that rare, like a 0.01 drop rate, you get some Satoshis? That'd be cool. Maybe you could do 10,000 Satoshis, but it's like this really rare grand prize. I don't know. That sounds pretty cool to me. I think we should seriously think about that. And remember, we're DAO holders. We control the conversation with respect to SPS. If we thought that was a valuable use of our SPS DAO funding, which again, holding Bitcoin in and of itself is probably wise. Even if that move was only or primarily out of just acquiring Bitcoin for the DAO, that actually might be a wise conversation in and of itself. Everybody's got Stampede, Beefcake. I'm just leaning EMP over here, but that's okay. Going. Oh, I don't have white. I hate doing that when I don't have white. Magic. Tasoshi. Speed. Boom, boom. I got 7 more. Put you up front. And then what can I do with 3? Oh, ooh la la. I like this. Okay. That feels pretty good. Keelan gains one of my carries, and then maybe Blazebeard. Let's see. Okay. You're gonna delete me. Life leech. Make it happen. He's got. I'm nervous about this here with the corrupted healing. I think we lose. He's got too much damage with the melee, and I've got not enough meat shield. And by the way, he's gonna. Oh, that stun was huge. That was a huge stun because he would have bloodlusted me there. By the way, he would have killed me and bloodlusted, and then he just burnt to death. Wow. Tasoshi for the win, maybe. The corrupted heal is still putting in work. And yes, the big finish, because that would have been a real problem if he corrupted healed himself back into life. The life leech absolutely keeping my my Blazebeard alive, and also helping my Keelan not go down either. Amazing W. Amazing. I gotta watch it again because I want to see, where did he place his tactics? He put True Strike and Impede on the Blazebeard, who we stunned out, and on the Flame for Hire. Why did he put it on the Flame for Hire? The Flame for Hire was gonna get ripped down by my snipe. That was an oversight. And my stun, by the way, might have been I might have won that almost exclusively because Tasoshi stunned his Blazebeard. Maybe. I think maybe I did, honestly. Anyways, great game. And we pulled out 27 SPS that time and 2,200 glint. Let's go again. I got a few more minutes, guys. Yeah, I don't want steps. I just want... Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense. And Paul says it has been floated for land too. Yeah. Hey, you could do a real like micro payout on land instead of just giving me totems, or totem fragments. Even if the pay is to win is really low, being Bitcoin, people will still see it as whatever I win will be both worth it. I'll be worth more later on. Absolutely, they would. Yeah, this is a conversation, man. Like there's real value there. Now, the factors that need to be thought through for that is like how much liquid funds do we have in the DAO that we could really part with? Because we don't probably want to sell SPS. That's going to be sell pressure on our own heads at a moment when SPS is pretty much all-time lows. So that's factor number one. But do we have DEC that we could liquidate? Again, maybe we don't want to do that because DEC is pretty close to peg and we don't want to undermine that. What about other tokens? Do we have any Bitcoin in the DAO? I actually think there might be some. If there is some, could we do this now? I actually think it makes sense to acquire more Bitcoin in the DAO, irrespective of this reward structure that we're talking about. But then in conjunction with a reward structure, with the acquisition of Bitcoin, implementing a reward structure that probably would very trivially issue any Bitcoin, that makes a lot of sense. Fire and Regret. Shout out to King Arminius, who I beat the other day, and I'm going to beat again. Love you, buddy. Fire and Regret. Reverse Speed. Let's see. Okay, Fire and Regret. So this time we're going to bring out the EMP, and we have the tools. I have what I want this time. Leo Lin. I think I beat him this way last time too. I think I did this exact same play. Let's see if he learned his lesson. I beat King Arminius is a friend. He helped me design the time and attention logo, which I love. And I beat him all with the exact same team, I think. Let's go. So I could get rid of Silverleaf and bring in another Protect, which would make my Armor Strike Leolin hit even harder. And again, double, look at that. Protect, triple protect. We're going to have, yeah. Oh, the only issue is we got reverse speed. That's okay. I maybe could do better than the resurrecting Commander Goff, but I think it's the play. My team's quite fast, but look, so is his. 6, 5, 4. So I'm gonna put Armor Strike there. We're gonna destroy, just absolutely gobble this card up. Liu Lan Sifu is the real Sifu, the real Sifu stand up. We're gonna eat this one alive. Let's go 3 speed. He's got a lot of damage, but all that damage is going to just hit Void Armor damage or shield over here in Silver Blade Fighter, which has 14 Void Armor. And then when you kill me, I'm just going to res myself. The best hope they would have had, I think, like, I could be wrong, but I'm smelling a cakewalk. The best thing they could have done would have been to sneak attack me, and even then, or maybe to taunt. If you had brought the red team and you taunted my Sifu, that might have worked. But I think I'm gonna cruise. Look at that, one shot at him. See, you got to res off. Oh, that trample's annoying because he got to hit me hard, even though he didn't finish the Sifu. He got to hit me hard, but then I get an execute. So my Sifu alone deletes his front 2 lines. Now he tramples through and he will kill the Sifu. No, he doesn't kill him, but puts the hurt on him. Ooh, that blast is annoying. Okay. Glad we hit that shot. And are we going to kill him? Yeah. And he's going to trample. Okay, no trample through. That. Oh, the oppress. And he's going to do enough damage. Oh. He's got Pierce, so he's going to... Unless I dodge somehow? No. Nope. Bye, Russ. I thought we were going to have a cakewalk there. But the mighty Venka the Vile absolutely eats me alive. By the way, Venka, price point, been dropping off a little bit. I've been seeing... I got a bid in here for 19 bucks on the Venka. I saw it yesterday. There was a BCX on here for 22. A single BCX. Now the single BCX 27. If you need a full maxed out Venka, this is probably worth your consideration at 220. Such a good card. Such an amazing card. Okay, let's see. Any other comments in chat? I still have DCB. Do you really, eh? Just sitting on it, eh? Hoping it'll go up in value. Appreciate you, Alex. Guys, thanks for hanging out today. I'm going to wrap up today right now. How long we've been going? Drop a like for me if you're still enjoying the content, if you appreciate what I'm doing. 17 concurrent viewers. I don't know what the likes are, but appreciate you guys hanging out today. 10 likes. And yeah, check out the video tonight. I got a rank grind video where I'll give it a life update coming out tonight around midnight Pacific Standard Time. Have an awesome day, guys. Bye for now.